What's up, everybody? Welcome to episode 102 of Talking in Ovals. No Alex today, so it's just me, Dave, going solo, but don't worry, we have a great guest. Before we jump into this week's show, I'd just like to go back into last week's show. We had on Zig Ziegler, CEO of Z Village and Facility in Vegas. If this comes to fruition, this is going to be an absolute game changer for the track and field community. We're talking indoor 400-meter track, a village where athletes live there, paid contracts for anybody on the team, indoor leagues, absolute massive undertaking. And we wish Zig and his people all the best because this could be an absolute game changer for everybody. Once again, don't forget to sign up for the River Rock 5K November 16th at the River Rock Marina in Brick. You can run a solo 5K or you can run with a partner where each guys run 1.5 miles. All the proceeds go to the Ocean and Monmouth food banks. Great time. Great prizes. Go and have some fun. So this week we have on someone who I know well. We have on Angelina George from Manasquan High School, senior star, and Brian Prendergast. Angelina, how are you today?
I'm good. How are you?
Good. So let's just get right into it. What was your spark to become a runner, and what are some great memories that you've had so far? I mean, it's not too long into your career, but you've done some great things on and off the track. So just tell us about how you got into the sport.
Definitely. So I grew up my whole life, just like I was that kid that just wanted to do as much as they could. I was like, Mom, sign me up for lacrosse, sign me up for soccer, sign me up for gymnastics. And I always kind of felt like I was just kind of like average at everything. And that kind of sucks because I'm a really competitive person. And my brother, he wrestles at the University of Wisconsin, and my whole life it was kind of just like, oh, you're Julian George's sister, like he's the really good wrestler. And so I kind of just felt like there was nothing really that special about me. Like I just felt like I wasn't excellent at anything. That always kind of nagged at me. And then my freshman year, in the winter, I kind of just started running for fun. Like my mom's a big runner. She ran a marathon and she'd always be like, Angelina, go run, like go run. So I just kind of started running. And I remember I'd go on like 7-mile runs and I'd be like, I feel so accomplished. Like I feel so good about myself. And then I planned for the spring, I was going to do the cross because that's what all my friends do. And then one of my friends, Sasha, was like, please do track with me. Like my mom's forcing me to do it. Like, please just do it with me. And I was like, okay, like I'm not good at lacrosse. Like I'm going to play freshman lacrosse. I'm kind of fast. Like I like to run. Like either way, I was going to run after lacrosse practice. So why don't I just do track? And I actually just felt like there were so many like things that like I almost didn't do track. Like I wasn't supposed to go to like I missed the first 3 practices for spring track. And because I have a health condition that I have to get like checked out every few years. So I missed the whole first like half a week of practice. And I was telling my mom, I was like, I'm not going to miss the first 3 practices. Like I'm going to get kicked off the team. Like I can't do track. Like I'd rather just not do track than get kicked off the team. She was like, Angelina, like you're doing it. And I just like, the whole time, like I was like, I don't think I should do this, but I just felt like there was this voice in my head, like telling me like, you should do this. Like you should go do track. Like I just felt like I was being drawn to it. Like I just felt like I kept trying to avoid it. And like something was just like pulling me towards it.
Yeah.
So that was super interesting. And then I started track and just like practices and stuff. And Brian comes up to me in the first day of practice and he's like, do you like running? And like, I'm trying to act all cool. Like
that's a very Brian question.
Kids. Yeah. And I was like, not really. Like who likes running? Like who likes to be like in pain? And he was like, I love running. And like deep down, I'm like, so do I. But like, I don't want to say that in front of like all these older kids who like don't like running, but like are just here to like get in shape. So then
I'm going to backtrack and say it wasn't the first day of practice because you just said you weren't there.
Yeah, so, I mean,
right, fine. It was the 4th day of practice.
It was her first day of practice. But it's so funny how you and so many other high school kids that we have on, none of them started running because that was their number one choice. And that's the sport that they wanted to do. Even some of the Olympians that we had on, it's always a sport that kind of people find and then they end up falling in love with. But yeah, I love your story and how you missed it and the fact that you went to practice. So you are freshman year, spring track, you just start coming out, you meet Brian. We all know Brian's got a wonderful way of ingratiating himself with his athletes. So I'm sure you met him, you're like, I want to run for this guy. What happened after that?
No, they
So
made fun of me.
Well,
Actually, to backtrack, Brian wasn't my coach my freshman year. The
Okay.
first practice, well, my first day of practice, we were like splitting into groups, and they were like, who wants to do the sprints? Who wants to do the distance? And because I was doing track with my two friends, Dylan and Sasha, Dylan was like, we should do distance. And Sasha was like, we should do sprints. And I was the tiebreaker. And they're both pleading their cases to me. And I'm like, I think we should do distance. And like, again, I just felt like it was almost like this like gut feeling. Like I was just like, I feel like this is what I'm supposed to do. Like,
see, that answer there is tremendous because most kids would say, I want to sprint because it is shorter. So that right there shows some of your mental fortitude there. Like, no, I'm not going to take the easier. If I'm going to do it, I'm going to go for it. I love it.
If I'm being completely honest, I was really like into running at that point. Like I was thinking to myself, I'm not going to run like a mile worth of sprints. So I would just be running after practice. So I was like, I guess I'll just do distance. And Dylan convinced me. And then we all did track and we would all run together. And we all kind of like just fell in love to the like culture of it, which I think was super special. And then my spark, like the way that I like really fell in love with the sport was my first race. It's a JV freshman race. It's freezing cold wind. It's April Fool's Day. And it's an after school meet. Me, Sasha, and Dylan all drive over together, and we're all nervous. We're in my mom drove us there, no bus. We're shaking. We're like, what do we do? Like, how do we run an 800? Because we only have a half a track, so we never even ran the distance before. We were like, what's it? We didn't even know that it was 2 laps. And we're going into this race.
I remember this well. I remember seeing you cowering underneath the bleachers at Howell. It's not even the Rebel Relays. It was the night before the Rebel Relays. They had the freshman sophomore meet.
Off, yep.
And we go up to Brian and we're like, what do we do? And he's like, you just run relaxed, you run smooth, and you compete. And I'm a very competitive person. Like, it's how I was raised. It's engraved in my family. My whole family is like this. So I was like, okay, I can compete. And we watched Dylan race, and then me and Sasha are up, and I'm like, okay, just run. My plan was I was going to stay in the back for the first lap, and then if I had anything left the second lap, I would kick. And we got the first lap. There's like 8 girls in front of me. I'm hanging towards the back. I'm all scared. And then the second lap, one girl just kind of ran off with it. And I'm just like, I start moving. I start picking off people. And I'm like, oh, I think I can get that girl. Like, I feel like I'm going really fast. Like, I feel like I can get her. Like, I have a lot left. And I'm racing in trainers, by the way. And I passed her on the turn, going with 150 to go. And it was just the best feeling ever. Like I was like in the second heat. I think I got like 5th at this JV meet, and I crossed the line and I win my heat. And it's just like, I just feel this immediate sense of like, this is what I was meant to do. This is what I've been looking for my whole life. And like, I've always felt like there was something like missing. I was really struggling with that my freshman year. Like, I just had this like sense weighing down on me. Like, there was something missing from my life. I feel like I had no purpose. Like, I was just like, what? There's nothing special about me. And I think that's part of why like I have such an emotional attachment to running, is because like it just gave me so much. Like, it just gave me so much joy and so much purpose. And it really, I immediately fell in love with the sport.
And you know, that reminds me of when I was your age, just the love and the passion. And I'd love to tell you that it goes away. Never. And you don't want it to, because this sport is the absolute greatest. Yeah. So
I remember that race so well. I remember watching her on like with 3 to go, 300 meters to go, and watching her just unleash this like wild kick. And I was like, oh, we got one here. And honestly, like the second I was brought in to work with some sprinters and mid-distance kids that I don't really do that, but that's the role that was offered to me at the time. And I walked up to them, the 3 of the girls that, Angelina and the 2 other girls that she mentioned, all freshmen, maybe day 3, 4, whatever it was. And I said, listen, you 3 are the best ones here, right? Like, don't take this seriously and everything's going to be okay. And, you could see it. You could see her run. I also knew she was Julie and George's sister. So I said, she's probably a pretty good athlete.
Right.
So, but yeah. And, and then to see it then, and what was your time that day?
2:42.
2:42 in the 8. All right. Nice debut.
Somewhere.
They were so scared.
First race as a freshman. And we all know, I mean, I can't think of the last time. Shout out to Rebel Relays. Great meet. Kevin D, awesome. But it's never nice there. It's never warm. It's always early season. It's always
This was
cold.
the Friday night under the lights one. It was, and I think it was raining, so that's why they were under the bleachers.
And it's almost everyone's first race. Every freshman, who didn't run in middle school. So at that point, I'm going to pivot to Coach here. You kind of alluded to it. You were kind of aware at that point that you were seeing something special, and that if she's, that she had all the right mental fortitude and that the talent was there. So you were probably, chomping at the bit here, like, we have a live one here. What were you feeling at that time? And did you see what was about to come on the horizon at that early stage?
Yeah, I mean, I saw a kid that was super athletic, and really seemed to enjoy, competitive as can be. I mean, you see it every day in practice almost. Angelina's a kid who you have to calm down in practice sometimes, like she gets after it. So,
I know.
It was, most definitely it was, you knew that she had something in her, and she had a very, very good freshman season. I think you got to 229.
Yeah, I was going to ask her that next, and I was going to after just to kind of see so you run that race. How did you feel? Did you feel that it was good? Did you feel that you could do better, or that this is just the beginning and that times are really going to start to actually drop from that time going forward?
So I went home that day, and I go up to my dad, and I tell him, Dad, I won my heat. I won my race. And he's like, great. What are the best girls in the state run? And so he Googles it. Tilly O'Connor, goes to the school next to us. I knew that she was a really good runner. So we mile split stalk her. And we see that Tilly doesn't even run the 800, but we see that she runs a 2:15. And I'm like, okay, so maybe that's what some of the best girls in the state run. So I'm like, okay, I think give me till my senior year and I can get down to 2:15. And my dad starts Googling D1 standards. He's all into it. He's
all in.
He's like, how can I help you? What do we need to do? He's like, do you want to do this? And I'm like, yes. And then I think throughout the season, I felt full face forward into this sport. And I just wanted to give it everything. I set these goals for myself, and I was like, I'm going to give this everything that I have. And I remember my big goal for the season was to qualify for groups. We have a super competitive section, especially in the 8 and the 16. And the 8 was my one chance.
But just that mind frame, as a freshman, you were like, I just want to get chosen by my coaches to go run at sectionals, or I just want to run at sectionals. You were looking already past that as a freshman. So that's a great mindset that not many kids at that age are able to get to. So kudos to you on that one.
It was super. This is a good story. So I'm running the 8. It's my one chance to qualify for groups. I didn't really have a chance in the 16. I get tripped on the cut-in. I fall to last place, and I get right back up, and I'm like, you gotta go. This is your one chance. I sprint to the front with total gangsters. I think it was 2 Metuchen girls that were super fast that year, Clemmy Lilly. And I'm just holding on for dear life. I get out kicked to the last 100. And I'm super upset about it. I'm like, I've given this a lot these past few months. I've made this a huge part of my life. And I just felt, it was the first time I think I really felt let down by the sport. I just felt like I could give this so much and still fall short. And Brian pulled me aside and he said to me, you are going to look back on this in a year. He said, quit soccer, go all in. He said, you are going to look back on this in a year and you are literally going to think this was so stupid. And a year from then, I won sectionals in the 16. I was second in the 8. I ran 2:12, which I think it's a lot faster than I ran at that sectional meet. It's 16, 18 seconds faster. And I love that story because I think it just shows that you and coach there, always having your back. So you finished freshman year. You had never had a year where you competed in a true distance runner for all 3 seasons. So what was it like after spring, knowing that, all right, Brian told me I'm done with soccer, so I got to go all in on this sport in the fall.
Yeah, Angelina, what was that summer like?
So
a lot of running?
Getting ready for your first XC and your first real true whole year as a distance runner.
Yeah, so I spent that summer doing maybe a little bit excessive amounts of running. Brian wasn't my coach at the time.
I'll explain all that, but that's all right. Keep going.
I was I was excessively running, to say the least. And it just like, it's all I wanted to do. And then that cross country season, I was like, I had all these goals and all these ambitions. And I like had like a really bad iron deficiency, and it would just give me like super bad anxiety to race. And it just like went all downhill from there. But so then going into indoor season, I just had this insane base. Once I got the iron up and I got my nerves calmed down, I had this insane base. And Brian wouldn't let me race a mile the first month of the season. He's like, you're not ready yet. You need more speed. So he makes me race a 600, sorry, a 600, a 400, an 800. I'm like, let me race a mile. Just let me show you that I can do really good in the mile. Like, I think this is my event. And finally, like, I raced a mile at Monmouth Counties. And I had a big goal to run under 5:15. And super fast girls in the race, like Kate D'Souza, Rosie Shea, Julia Shanes, like super fast girls. And in my mind, they were like so much better than me. So my goal was to get like maybe top 10. Like, I'm in the first heat. I'm super nervous. And with like 600 to go, I see like Julia, like Kate D'Souza's she's already won the race, but I see Julia and Rosie are like 8 meters in front of me. And I'm like, I think I can get them. I have a lot left, like, because I had this great base. And I go and I get them, and I'm in second place. And I finish in like 5:12. And I was so happy that day. And that was kind of like a breakthrough race for me. And that was kind of just when I realized, like, I'm stacking these building blocks and I can really do something special with this.
So was that the point when you started to notice that maybe other athletes were starting to notice, hey, Angelina George is here? Like, you keep mentioning other people's names.
The
like
coaches too. I remember the look on the coaches when you unleashed that kick. Actually, Rob DeFilippis looked at me and he said, "Where'd you get her from?" I said, "Manasquan, baby."
Because it is different once you get to that point where you're not the person that, you know, is the one hunting. People started to know you and know that this is Angelina. So was that a different mind frame that you had to have, kind of maybe from that point today? I expect to maybe win now or be up front, not expect to get top 10. What is it like going through that adjustment? Because we all have to go through that in order to take that next step.
Yeah, I feel like I'm still going through it. In my mind,
yeah, sure.
Like, absolutely. In my mind, I'm still this like freshman that has no idea what she's doing.
Good.
It was super cool. I think I made a lot of friends when I started getting better, and I kind of just fell in love with the running community and how supportive the girls were. Like, I'd be on a race, on the line for a race with like Julia and Rosie, and we'd be like, let's all push each other. Like, let's all run fast today. And I think that kind of just like embracing each other and uplifting each other rather than like, I'm going to like tear you down. Like, I'm going to beat you today. Like, I loved the upliftingness of this sport. So yeah, that helped kind of shift the mindset where like, I didn't feel like I was really, obviously I'm still competing, but I felt like I was more competing against myself. And I still try to, obviously, like, you want to beat every single person, but I try to keep that mindset because I think it keeps me from having too many nerves, because that's something that I've really struggled with is race anxiety. So just kind of like having that mindset of just like, I'm competing, I'm doing this to see how far I can go at the end of the day. Like, I want to take myself to the limits. So I think that was kind of like part of that mindset shift to be like, I'm here to win, but yeah. Yeah, and then if that makes sense.
Of course. And then you know, going into this year, you know, you're on everyone's, you know, watch out for list. You know, you're on Lambert's list or you're on Mile Split. So you had different things. So going into this past year, you know, having won some county championships or some sectionals, do you feel that it's harder to defend, or did you say, bring it on, let's go, I'm ready to take on everyone?
I'd be lying if I said I didn't like being the underdog. I think that's my favorite. I like being kind of like, oh, they don't think I'm going to do anything. They're not betting on me to win. So
it is easier.
Let's prove them wrong.
Definitely easier.
It's no pressure. It's, and I think that's something that like, kind of, I just had to mature to and learn that like I would just, this past year was just really hard for me, because I was just like, if I lose to these people that I'm not supposed to lose to, like, it felt like the whole world was going to come crashing down. And so I think that just a lot of maturing had to happen for me to realize, look, you need to be like, what they're doing doesn't matter. Like, obviously you want to beat people, but like, it's really easy to get caught up in like, oh, I beat them last year, now they're beating me this year, or I ran this time at this meet last year. Like, I think that I really had to come to terms with the fact that progress isn't linear, and it looks different for everyone. So like what I'm supposed to do in my journey that's something that Brian had to teach me.
I was just going to say,
after a lot of tears.
I'm like, is this Brian talking? Like,
it is.
But it's great though. I mean, and having that mind frame, because I do want to delve into a little bit about this year, because there was a lot of ups and downs, starting in the fall, through the winter and the spring. Injuries definitely play a part in every athlete, unfortunately. And for those who don't know, this year at state sectionals, Angelina's running the 800 meter, qualifies, great time, 5th, finish line just falls. And her coaches were like, we don't know what is going on. I think Brian ran over. What were you feeling, if you can talk about it? If you can't, fine, that's okay. But like, what was that moment like? And what has the mind frame been in training and rehab? Do you feel that you're going to come back even stronger? And just how is this whole process going for you at this moment?
Yeah, definitely. So beginning of May, I started getting a pain in my shin. I didn't really tell anyone. I kept it on the DL. I was having Brian scrape it for a few weeks. I knew deep down it was a stress fracture, but I had been hurt in the fall. I just got back on my feet and indoors. Like, I finally felt like I was fit. And I poured my heart into this season. Like, we had a workout 3 days before sectionals. And I said to Brian, I can run 209 right now. I'm in the best shape of my life. Like, I did this workout last year, but I'm doing it faster. I did it before I ran 211. And so I said to Brian, like, I am in such good shape. Like, all of this work is I finally feel like the stars are aligning. So going sectionals, I think I finally had like this good mindset too. Like, it took a while to get kind of like that dog back in me, like I'd say, after being hurt.
There was a couple times where I was like,
where's Angelina?
There it is. Like, I saw it like the weeks leading up to that. There was some big races, but I mean, continue.
And then that home Del Mile was just like, boom, she's back.
Yeah, definitely. So I was so excited. And I got new spikes the day before, and I'm doing strides in them, and I can't really walk. And I'm like, okay, you just got to get through 2 weeks. You have 2 weeks, and nationals is over, mocks is over, groups is over. You'll run all your fast times. You'll have everything you want, and you can rest your leg. You can take however much time you need off, but you need to get through these 2 weeks. But my body had other plans. I get on the line for sectionals, and I'm limping. I'm like, I normally do like a little jump before I can't. I'm in so much pain. But I'm like, when the gun goes off, I don't feel pain. It doesn't matter. And first 50 meters, I'm like, oh my God, what am I going to do? There's a stabbing pain going down my leg. And then 400 to go. I'm praying that I can get 6, because Group 2 Central is no joke. So praying that I can come away with a 6th place finish and move on to groups and hopefully figure out what's wrong with my leg. Last 50 meters, I can't walk. If you watch, Mile Split cut out the video, but I'm limping to the finish line. I finished the race. I hobble over. My dad says to me, being like, tough it up. He's like, I think you'll be walking by Monday. I think you just pulled something. He's like, you'll be walking on Monday.
The trainer there at the trackside originally, said it looks like a calf strain. It's probably just a calf strain because it was in the back of her leg. Ran 215.
Yeah,
right.
216.
216.
16, yeah.
They Central Jersey Group 2, the top 6 that moved on had the 11 fastest times out of all sections in the whole thing in the state of New Jersey. We had 2 of them, right? You had the 3 kids from Rumson, you had the girl from Wall, and you had
Cat.
You
had two girls from
Manasquan.
And
yeah. They were the 11th fastest times in all sections over there, and she's doing it on half a leg. You think back of everything as a coach, like, rule number 1 is like, gosh, do no harm, and you think back about everything, like, and every day, right? We always ask kids every day, how do you feel? Can you point to it? What is it? Can you, how is it? And, I guess there's just, still, lessons in all of it from the coach's perspective is to always dig a little deeper, get the information that you need. And, from the athlete's perspective is like, it's okay to miss a couple of weeks or days, or, if you're not feeling quite right, be upfront, be open about it. And, that way maybe perhaps you don't miss quite as much time as Ms. George has had to miss going into this whole summer. But I have no doubt that she'll be fine and back and ready to rumble senior year.
So, Angelina, has this changed maybe your mind frame? Like maybe you can't take everything on a day-to-day basis at 1,000%? Like, have you thought maybe it's okay to have rest days and like sometimes less is more, or do you still like, I'm going to come back and I'm going to go all out and but this time it's just going to be better? Like, how does your mind frame change with these injuries, or does it not?
Yeah, definitely. Oh, so I first mentioned I broke my leg.
I know.
My leg literally broke in that race.
Yes, it did.
So it's like a 4 to 6 month recovery. But yeah, so I think shifting my mindset, I think it took, I always say like, everything happens for a reason. Like I kind of live by that. And I also believe that like sometimes we have to hurt to grow as people. So I think that this was definitely a hurt to grow as a person. Like, don't get me wrong. Like I couldn't even think about changing my mindset for 2 weeks. Anyone would say anything and I would just start crying. Like I was a hot mess.
Yeah.
Like someone would be like, what happened? I'd be like, it was totally, I was a hot mess. And then
I think I saw you in school one day and I just turned around and just started walking the other way.
Yeah, I was
not
ready
gonna go there today.
I was just so angry at the world. Like I just felt like I'd done everything right and I got nothing out of it. And obviously that's not what happened. And I think that I just had to mature as an athlete and as a person and realize, no, you did get something out of it. You learned a lesson, which is that you can't push your body to its limits. If you feel pain, you have to stop. You're not Superwoman, unfortunately. I'd love to be, but I'm not. And if my bones break too, and maybe I can't handle as much miles or as much intensity as I thought I could, and maybe I just have to find other ways to train around that, whether it's cross training.
Look at Parker Valby. I mean, she cross trains 2 or 3 days a week.
Exactly.
There's a way to train for everybody, and you will certainly find it. Yeah, it's just But I think another thing that you might have learned is when your coach asks you how you're feeling, you might just want to tell them actually how you're feeling.
Yeah, definitely. Right? Honesty is a big one that I learned too, and just kind of it gave me a lot of perspective and just a lot of insight. And like after I got over the initial shock of it and the season was over and I wasn't watching mocks from my bed crying, it was kind of just like, this isn't the worst thing that happened. You're 17 years old. You've got a long career ahead of you. Like I have full intentions of running in college. Like this is like, it's not that deep. Like it might feel like the end of the world because like I'm hobbling around school on crutches. I can't do anything for myself. I have to lift my leg to get into my car. And I think that it seems like what seems like the end of the world in the moment isn't. And I think that that's what that taught me. And just like, I think that's why I love sports and track so much. Cause like, I think it makes you grow as a person, which this has definitely helped me. It teaches you life lessons.
Yeah, absolutely. Listen, I mean, everything in life is there for some reason, whether we want to accept it or not. So you mentioned something, cause you're at that age where the next level is starting to be getting closer and closer. So as going into your senior year, what has the recruiting process been? And because we have, some listeners out there who are going to be going through this process soon, and, without mentioning any schools or anything, what has your process been like? And maybe what is it that you're looking for in a school? Is it more academics? Is it athletics? Is it how you might feel when you interact with the team on a visit? Because there's so many different factors. So kind of, where is your mind frame? What are you looking for? And how has this process been? And maybe you can shed light on how stressful maybe this is to go through, especially being injured.
Definitely. Yeah, it was a lot this year. Like I tried It was amazing. It's been an amazing process. I plan on making a decision and hopefully around October, which I'm super excited for. I've got a bunch of officials planned. It's been a super cool process. Like I think in June, like I had a bunch of coaches reach out to me. I reached out to a bunch of schools and started like kind of fostering some relationships. And then I was hurt for cross country, which sucked because I didn't really have any cross country times to show coaches. So I didn't want to seem like a one trick. What's the saying?
One trick pony.
I didn't want to seem like a one trick pony.
One hit wonder.
So that was hard. And then what I'm looking for in a school, I'm very type A. People that actually know me know that. Like I like to do as many things as I can at once. And I like to be perfect. I'm a little bit of a perfectionist, so I have to do everything perfectly. So I also feel like I excel the most when I'm spread super thin and I have all these things. I'm super busy. So I definitely, academics is huge for me. I want to do pre-med and then hopefully be an emergency room doctor. That's my goal. Work in a hospital and stuff. But so academics, huge because obviously wanting to go to medical school, you have to go to a good school undergrad. So yeah, I've just been fostering super cool relationships. I really want a coach and a team that cares about the athletes, cares about you as a person, and kind of sees you as more than like sees you beyond being a runner. Because like I've always been someone where like I could never make running everything for me. Like I think that would just destroy my mental health. Like I've always had other outlets. Like I love to bake. I love to do community service. I have great friends. I go to yoga. Like I've always had other things.
And that's very helpful.
I want a program that values that and lets me have other outlets in my life besides running.
So this kind of goes to both of you with this whole process. Angelina, maybe how much will you go to Brian maybe for advice? And Brian, how much do you give her? Or do you feel like that's a choice that she has to make? But if she comes to you, you'll gladly give her any advice that she wants?
Yeah. Sometimes Brian, like I vent to Brian a lot, like probably more than the average athlete vents to their coach. So whether it's about life or especially the recruitment process or just asking him for advice, like I'll be like, oh, this coach wants this from me, but then I don't know about this. And what do you think? Like, do you think, is this aspect of the school more important than this aspect? Like, let's say maybe like, I'm just using like hypothetically, maybe they don't have as good academics, but they have these great athletics, or maybe vice versa. Like I just have to like kind of go to him sometimes and just be like, what do you think? Like, and I think it's really helpful to have like a coach whose opinion you value. Cause like just in terms of like everything, like I think sometimes like, I think it's super helpful for athletes to just have like an adult that they can like ask questions to and like they can guide them. Cause I think like sometimes your parents say something and you're like, yeah, like, you know what you're talking about. Like, leave me alone. But like having someone reinforce just like life lessons and like important information really helps.
Yeah.
I mean, I think that she's in a great spot because most of the conversations we have are just that, how's it going? Like updates, who have you spoken to recently? And, how did it go? Did you like it? What is it? Who did you speak to? Did you speak to the head coach? Did you speak to the, the recruiting coordinator, assistant, who was on board? Now the family, again, Julian, the family went through this recently with her brother being recruited. So they've got a very good handle on, just the logistics of it all. It's a little different, but with the sports, recently Angelina's had a couple situations where the coach that was actively recruiting her and like was, in the running is no longer a coach at that institution. So, they moved on and that's part of it.
That's happened. Yeah. We've had a few guests on where that's been the case. Like, they're waiting till the very end to commit because there's so much transition within college coaching that you want to make sure that the person that you're agreeing that you want to coach you is still there.
And even beyond just signing, right? Like, I saw Emma this summer and she was like, she's
coach is
from
gone.
the University of Colorado and the coach is gone. But at the same rate, you kind of have to roll with some of this stuff. It is a business. But mostly the whole thing is, where do you feel most comfortable? Where do what did you like it? Could you see yourself there for 4 years? And then kind of, where do you fit as a runner? Where do you fit in as on the team? And what do they see you as? And some of those things. Some of the schools were pretty straight up. They were like, we don't make points in this conference at that distance, so you're going to be this instead. It's like,
no.
Okay.
No, I'm not.
Yeah. I mean, the cool thing with Angelina that I believe is that she's so versatile, right? She runs 60 flat. She's run 211. She's run, she's a sub 5 minute miler in my eyes. She's like 5.2 something like that. Yeah. And she can run cross country. She's an amazing steeplechase runner. We've had her run steeplechase at nationals their sophomore year, and we believe as far as I can find, I think she's run the fastest time as a sophomore in the state of New Jersey ever. In the steeplechase. And just look at our record board at high school. She's good on relays. She's good in individual events, and she's good for. So it does lead. She's a strong, athletic, fast, competitive kid that is going to find a home, just about any distance, any place. So it's a matter of finding what's right for her, and some of those things come down to location. Sometimes it's like, okay, the campus is nice. What's it like around the campus? So it's just all conversations that it's just me, just asking questions and, learning more and seeing if I could find anything that, maybe perhaps leads me to believe that she's leaning one way or another. I don't really influence it at all. It's not my decision to make. Money too, right? Money talks, right? Tell me, you can show me how interested you are in me by, as the athlete by what they offer. So it's always part of it.
I just think it's great when I can see an athlete be able to go to their coach, and not just about what are we doing today in workout, but to build a bond and a relationship that goes beyond just athletic. Like, Brian could go to your house and have dinner with you and your family. And it's a beautiful thing that I love seeing. I don't think there's enough of that these days in sports. So you mentioned earlier, New Jersey girls mid-distance running is probably at a level that I don't know, we've certainly haven't seen this depth, or it's just crazy. So what is it like? Because you never have an off week. What is it like just keeping that mind frame week in and week out? You just got to grind. And whether it's this person or that person, there's always someone there who is up to the challenge to run. What is that like? Because there's never an easy time.
I love it. I love it through and through. My conference is competitive. My county's competitive. My section is a dogfight for spots. Oh my God. Don't even get me started on my group. It's insane. But I love it. I think it keeps you locked in year round. I think it's like I think it keeps you motivated. I think it's like, I'm not working. If I'm not working, they're all working. There's a million girls that want what you have. So I think that always is kind of like a driving factor. And I think that's one of the things that motivates me so much. And like I said earlier, constantly having people to push yourself with is so valuable. Like I always see people like on social media, like runners, and they'll be like, just won my like conference meet. And the time will be like 2:30. And I'm like, sticking at 2:10 to win my conference meet. And I love that. Like I said, last year I ran my lifetime best in the 800 of 211, and I got second place. I was going into Meet of Champs as the number 2 seed. And I said, I'd rather run 211 and get second place to Clemmy than run 215 and win. I'd take it day in.
I was just going to ask you that. I was just going to, because we have a debate sometimes on our show that we feel that the art of racing is not as prominent as it was, in that everything now is time. So, and you and most athletes of your age, they would rather run fast than place it at a certain place. And it's just an interesting difference from when I was young, where like I didn't care what we ran. But in order to get into college now, it's so competitive that you have to have those times. Whereas college is like, oh, you won your state, but that person got 8th. So it's not all the athlete's fault. To me, it's just a shift that is kind of fascinating to me, because to me, I just wanted to actually win. Now it's like winning is great, but you have to run fast because everyone's looking at times. Pro level too. It's just crazy how it's at that level now.
Well, I actually love the time aspect of it. That's one of the things that I fell in love with the sport kind of for, is even if you lose, you can still win. Like, that's kind of how I've always felt. Like, I could get fifth in a race and have the race of my life and be jumping for joy after. And I think that's something so valuable. And I also love that it's just something so tangible. Like, I kind of hated other sports because I would be like, oh, like, am I better than her? Like, I don't know. Like, I'm good at this thing, but she's good at that thing. Like, running's like, no, you ran this time, you're better than me. I ran this time, I'm better than you. It's kind of, I love that kind of just like objectiveness that is the sport. And like I said, like, I think that it's just so like, I mean, I don't think I've ever been as happy I think my happiest races are like 8th place. Like this year, Homedale, like, I think I got maybe like, I don't even know if I was in the top 10. But
right,
like, I was so happy after.
Yeah. And I always like, I'm like, all right, how's she going to feel after this one? You know, I'm walking towards the finish line and I'm like, Meet of Champions indoor this year, you were 6th in the state. You know, monster race, stacked. I mean, not only were you 6th, but you were the 4th out of the short conference in that race. So 4 of the top 6 are short conference with Clemmy and Olivia Nicholson and you and Izzy Rodriguez came out of nowhere. That was like her like flying down the home stretch. Look, we see the 3 Rumson girls in our county, in our
division this year.
In our division this year, in short conference, in the sectional, in the groups, in Meet of Champions. We don't ever
every Twilight meet or
I mean, I was my sophomore year. I was the number 2 seed going to Mox. I hadn't won a single race all year in the 800. The entire year, I hadn't won a single race.
That kid Clemmy Lilly can run, right? Sure. And it was awesome because the way that they would push each other. I mean, when you say that, like in groups that year, no, in sectionals that groups, you ran the 211. Clemmy was like 211.22, and Angelina was like 211.6. Like they came down to the line, and like I almost wet my pants watching that thing because I was so freaking like like what the heck's happening? And I look at McClune, and he's just like, whoa, like McClune's actually hysterical. Rumson coach, great. Sasha's great uncle, by the way. He's the best. He goes, I wish these two would make things a little bit more interesting. I've been talking about Angelina and Clemmy racing, and that's just the way that it is. But at that day, 6th place, I knew you were fit. You ran 2:13 indoor, and you got a couple of Union Catholic kids that know Sophia Day was in there, maybe right.
Really talented girls,
like really like, oh my God, it's crazy,
all amazing.
And I'm like,
Sophia Day, previous guest on the show.
I was gonna say that's right. And I said, like, all right, is she gonna be happy with this? And I looked at her, and she was like, yeah. And I looked at her parents, and it was like, 6th. It was a great race.
It was my first MOC medal, so I was really happy about that. I felt like,
look, I'm the tallest person in my family, and that's like no like great reward, right? So if you win a race that you're not running a faster time, then what does it really get you? There's no glory in being the tallest Prendergast at 5'7".
Exactly.
I'd take 6'3" any day, I think.
Exactly.
I just find it, it's just neat to me and interesting how that whole shift has gone about with time over place, because to get to certain meets now, you still have to get a certain place. But if you run fast times, then you'll most likely get those places.
Yeah, it's super cool.
So Brian, what do you see as Angelina's best event going forward? Because me, steeple.
Yeah. Look, she's a tough kid, and she can run pretty fast. I think the extra 1,000 in college the extra 1,000 meters in college is tough, right? That's a couple of 2.5 extra laps to think about going over those barriers. A few extra barriers there too. And it could be that. Again, I think it's just about the right spot. I think it's about the right program. I think it's about the right coaching that develops her, where she can be. it could be. I think that she's a tremendous miler. We have to point it out, right? We have to point it out. It was mentioned earlier in the show that she's done all this. We don't have a track.
Yeah.
That was certainly.
We don't have a track at the school. We have a half a track. We call it the Jack. It's a J track. It's ridiculous.
It's a disgrace.
It's a disgrace. Okay. So, no, fair enough. Yeah. And it's hard to get, quality training.
It inhibits us from doing anything aerobic, basically.
Yeah. Yeah, and we do get to another track not too far away, from time to time. But, in the team aspect, it's difficult to, take a top kid only and take, top kids only and go to a different site to practice when you have a team. Like, you can't do that. You have to make the opportunity available to everybody. And it's difficult to get everybody to the track that goes all the way around. It goes all the way around these things. And, so when you think about it, the speed comes from a lot of 250s, a lot of 150s, a lot of 200s, a lot of short breaks on those. Yeah, we do a lot of twos. We do a lot of twos before tempos. We do a lot of twos before, heading out for some longer stuff. And then we also at times do some twos when you come back from some of those things. But yeah, I think that it's really quite amazing where she's gone in the short amount of time. And look, it comes from her drive. She's driven. She is a tremendously driven, like not only in on the track and in running, but in the classroom. At times it's like, okay, it's intense. It's an intense scene. If we had like a fundraiser on something like that, she'd probably want to win that too. She's that kid, which it's special. You can't certainly manufacture it. You got to have it. At times it's things that get in the way, right? You don't want to miss a race, so you run when you're a little injured. So it's the best of times and worst of times for that. But I think it's just a testament to her and who she is, and she's up for working. She's up for the training. Best race, steeple, mile, maybe 800.
I don't think I'm fast
anything
enough
on a relay. I don't think that's true. It depends. Look, it depends school, it depends conference, it depends.
Yeah. So
you're 58 all day long. You ran that one you ran the 60 flat in the division meet when I asked you not to run that fast.
Yeah.
There was a race. The gun went off. What do you want?
This is just like practice, guys. This is awesome. So, Angelina, in the state of New Jersey, how does one even go about finding a steeplechase or saying that is the event that I want to do? Did you see it on TV? Was like Emma Coburn in the race? You're like, look at Emma. Or it was just like how did you figure out I want to run that race? Because that's not something that we have in our state. So how do you go about just finding a steeple?
Yeah. So my old coach, she's a volunteer coach here, Sam Hoagland. She used to do steeple, and she showed me Lily Shapiro's state record steeple. And I was just like, that's so cool. I want to do that.
Sam's an old Colts Neck kid that has, they have the long history.
She's friends with the Shapiros, and so I was like, I want to do that. I was like, get me in. And this is my freshman year. So then sophomore year, indoors, I go to Brian. I'm like, can I steeple this year? And he kind of looks at me like I have 3 heads. And then he's like, sure. So our coach, she was a heptathlete in college, Michaela Reed. She starts teaching me how to hurdle.
The great Michaela Reed at Manasquan High School.
One of the best.
OG, still school record holder. The only ones we can't break.
Yeah. So she starts teaching me how to hurdle. And then we go to Georgian Court like a few days before I'm running the steeple in New York. Brian found a race that I could run it at.
You got to go to Staten Island because they don't really run steeple here. There's a Big Blue Classic on Staten Island, Shaolin. They can get a steeplechase in there.
Yeah,
we went out there.
So basically, the first time I ever ran the steeple was my first time going over the water barrier, because Georgian Court didn't have any water under it when we went there to practice. So first water barrier ever is in the race. The first 250 into this 2K steeple. The first one's a little shaky, and then I kind of just picked it up, and I was like, this is kind of fun. And I kind of like the idea of having like hurdles as like mini distractions in the middle of a race.
Yeah.
And I'm very like ADHD. So like, I like the like idea of like more stimulation while you're running. If that makes any sense.
You know, I ran steeple a few times when I was at Rutgers, and I just loved it. It was just fun. It was just so fun. Like I didn't feel like I felt like I was just like outside, just running around, just jumping over things. It was great.
Yeah, and I'm kind of annoyed because I feel like I've never really gotten to like push myself in that race because like I held back the first time I ever ran it because a girl had told me like you're gonna hit a wall if you go out too fast, and that kind of got in my head like a few days before I ran it. So I kind of just really held back, and then the next time I ran it was at nationals at 12 o'clock at night. I'm exhausted. I've ran 3 races in the past 48 hours. Brian's not even there. Like, it's just me and my parents and Coach Reed in Penn, in Franklin Field. And I'm so nervous because I'm racing against, like, gangsters. And I'm just like, I get on the line and, like, I hold back again. And I was kind of just disappointed because, like, I like to leave everything out there. And then this year, we go to run a steeplechase at Staten Island again to get a nationals qualifying time. And it's windy and it's cold. It's not a day to run fast. So I say to Brian, I'm going to run as slow as I can to get the standard. Well, I think it was like 2 laps to go. I stutter step, face plant straight into the barrier.
Hi, do you have the clip? Pull up the clip now. I'm kidding.
I did have the clip, but I was like, I don't think I can show
it
that.
Went viral. It went a little bit viral. There was some no context action.
Angelina's parents are the absolute greatest, but you could tell that they had the wonderful parental reaction when she fell, and it was
her mom's a tiger. Her dad is
the greatest reaction I've ever seen.
Her mom's a feisty sports parent.
Fantastic.
It was a wrestling mom.
You can hear her in the video.
She said, She said,
yeah. There was a word, so I wasn't able to share that clip. Plus, I didn't think Angelina wanted everyone to see her face plant into a hurdle on.
And she missed
on a podcast.
She actually hit the provisional qualifier mark on that and was, I think, 2 seconds off of the auto. And on that, with the fall, and I I submitted the provisional, and they for some reason didn't take provisionals for that one this year. They did that a lot at nationals this year outdoors. So even though with the fall, she thought she had. Now I was on the other side of the track. I said, "Where do you want me to be?" Always, and she said, "I want you right before the water barrier." So I said, "Okay." So I was over there, and they had like a timing tent, and she was like right by the start finish, like right by the, and the timing tent was there. So I didn't even see her go down. And I just looked like one split was like 3 seconds off. I'm like, wow. I'm like, no, it wasn't even that bad. It was like 3 seconds. Cause at that point she kind of had picked it up a little bit. So it was almost like her split for that lap had matched earlier laps where she was just kind of getting into the race. And so I didn't even really know that she fell. And then guy came up and was like, "She's the toughest kid I've ever seen in my life." And some old timer.
If anybody can watch the video, I don't know how you were able to remove yourself from the track after
or how your jaw didn't break,
and the rate in which you collided. And everybody knows that the steeple, they don't move. They're not hurdles. Like anybody thinks a hurdle, it is not a hurdle. It is a wooden structure that does not move. And it was.
And here's the other thing.
I think I texted Brian, toughest kid I've ever seen.
I got the video from her mother. I think, her mother sent it to me. And I was like, I left that meet that day, and I went to go run the Boston Marathon. So I was like at the meet, and I went to Metro Park to get on an Amtrak to go to Boston to run the marathon. And she, and I have the video, and I was like, I don't even want to send it. Like my son was at the meet because he runs for Brick Memorial. And he was like, "Dad, she went down hard, like bad." So I was like, now I have video. I didn't want to send it to my own kid because I didn't want anyone to like see it. I didn't want it to be like, I didn't want Angelina to, have it like go viral. It was a viral type of video. And by the time I like got to Boston, like I look on her, like, so it was on Strava. It was on our, it was on our Instagram or Strava, like full video. She put it out there herself. I was like, oh man, this kid just doesn't care. It was, I didn't want her to be embarrassed or nervous or sad or anything. And here we are. She's posted it herself.
Yeah. I mean, when I fell, the only thing that was going through my mind, that like anytime I've ever fallen in a race, it's just like, okay, you have so much room to make up. Like I didn't even have time to feel the pain. And then I remember after I finished the race, I was like, where is Brian? Like, I was like, he probably, like, where is he? And, like, I think one of the coaches from a neighboring, like, team said to him, like, she fell. And he was like, and I'm kind of notorious for collapsing a little bit at the end of the finish line and Brian having to drag my dead body off the track. So he's, like, thinking that I just, like, collapsed on the track. He's like, come on, like, suck it up, like, roll over. But then the coach, like, told you and was like, no, she, like, fell in the race.
Look, this is an adventure over
that whole story
this is an adventure. and look, going back to your sectional freshman year when you fell in the in the 800 at Middletown North. I remember that one pretty clearly too. And it was like, I told her, I said, when you go down, like, you don't have to if you go down, like, God forbid you go down, like, you don't have to make it up in the next, and on that straightaway, which is what she did. She like you got a little bit of time to go back into the race. So I guess maybe she listened to me on that one. And she tried to get back into the race and get back on the time.
So Angelina, in terms of the injury, where are you in your recovery? And do you have a time frame of when you're looking to maybe step back on the track or the field, or how are you feeling?
Yeah. If it was up to me and not my body, I'd have been running the day I broke my leg. But unfortunately, my doctor thinks I should be. He told me to mentally think of it as October 1st. I did an MRI just to make sure that it's fully done healing. But yeah, so it's. I'm pretty far along. The leg atrophy was really bad. Like I have my leg was so pale and it was literally like this big. And because I run on my toes, I run like a sprinter. Like I go up, I don't really go forward. So my calves are naturally like huge. And like my calf actually got like so small. It's actually so depressing. So I've just had to do a lot of PT to fix that and to get my strength back. Because for me, like just because of how I run, like I need really strong calves. So that's been a lot of physical therapy. I wasn't able to cross train for 6 weeks or do anything. So that was so debilitating. And I'm very neurotic. So not exercising for 6 weeks
but it
actually
might be good
drove
for
me
you
insane.
in the end. But it might be good for you.
It was
overall.
Like I said, everything happens for a reason. And I think that like it happened and it showed me that like maybe I don't need to rely on exercise just so much because like it is just like I think for a lot of athletes like it's just like a coping mechanism for them and everything that comes into their life. So that was a really important lesson, going 6 weeks with doing nothing. I was going insane. So thank God now I swim, I bike. I ran the Ultra G today, 20% body weight. So I elliptical. So I'm getting the building blocks back. And like, even, I mean, he is like, stay in the boot as long as possible, stay not running as long as possible. And that's hard to hear.
Everything like timing wise in a teenager's life is massive. It's like, we need it now or else, it's, and
I have one. Yes.
The longer you can stay in the boot, the better, right? Like the longer this process takes, even though you want it right away, the better in the long run for you to be healthy and understand.
To help you from yourself. It's helping you from yourself.
There's gonna be a whole lot of that, and she'll figure it out, right? This season, if there's no cross country, there's no cross country. If it's the last thing that you want, right, is. And I won't be coaching Angelina this fall. I'm not coaching at Manasquan this fall anyway. So, but I'm always here, and I'm always a part of this thing. Is that the last thing you want to do is be like, all right, you're healed. We're gonna just drop you right in Homedale Park, right? Like here you go. Here's your first race back, because that's like the kind of the part of the season when it's gonna happen. and that's just like the healing part. Like, what about the rebuilding of the running and getting some training in? It's got to be a smart process, and you've really got to respect the process, or else you're running the risk of running yourself back into some trouble. As much as you want it, you got to do the right thing with it, and we'll do that. We'll make sure that she's doing the right thing as she goes, and
helps to have someone to keep me from myself, because
that's what I
think I'd be going insane just trying to do it all. And it helps because I think that he understands that obviously, like, I want things and I have huge goals for the season. Like, we always go over my goals before the season. Like, I'll send Brian like a list on my notes, and it's like, run some this, run that. But I think that we both know that, like, the big things that are going to happen in my running career aren't going to happen in high school. Like, I sure hope not. Like, I don't plan to peak in high school. So staying healthy so that I can have those big goals.
And you got to see the gym workouts too that she is able to do. Upper body's strong right now. She's been working hard, and
heart rate gets high in that gym.
She's doing what she can do, and not worrying too much about what she can't do, and and not letting what you can't do get in the way, and so it's coming along, and it's gonna be it's gonna take its time, but you don't want to. This is not something that you want to rush back from. And I've said it to her. Her parents understand that. And her doctors certainly do. Her PT is a guy that I know. So I think that she's got a lot of people in her corner that are going to persuade her to do things the right way here. And she will.
A lot of people keeping me from myself is a pattern I'm noticing.
So we can say you are on the mend and you expect to fully be back at some point this school year. Yeah,
I'm really excited. And like I said, I mean, I run my best, but no one's expecting it from me. So I think I hope to fly under the radar, and I think with that like mentality of just pushing me of like, I missed out on mocks. I missed out on so much that I wanted. So just having that to fuel the fire, I think it's gonna be great. I'm really excited.
Well, I have no doubt that you have the drive and the determination, and you will do everything that you can to get back as soon as you can for yourself, for your team, for everybody who you want to be back for. That's what you're going to do.
Yeah. And a lot of people have put a lot of belief into me, which is something that I really appreciate. Because like, I think like Brian was saying, like when I first kind of had those breakthrough races, like all these coaches and all these teammates were like, oh my God, like where did that come from? Like people would ask me like, did you know you could do that? And like, I think for me, it was like, yeah, like I knew when I was running 6 flat last spring that I could run 5 flat. Like, and I think like Brian knew it. My parents knew it, like my teammates knew it. I think like having those people, like I've always tried to believe in myself a lot. So I'm really grateful that I have so many people around me that also just feed into it and also believe in me and are just like, and aren't afraid to give me tough love sometimes and be like, okay, you want this, you have to do this, this, and that. Like, it's not going to be easy if you want this. Like it's not easy and it's not linear. So you're going to have to really get your mind and your body ready for this.
Yeah. So I just want to, you are a phenomenal athlete who it's been a joy just, coming in. It's no secret. I was a coach there this spring, and just seeing you work and being a part of the whole program. It's just been fun to watch your tenacity and your drive and your willpower every day. Cause I've seen you in races this spring where I'm like, it's not looking good, but then all of a sudden, like she's just there. Like you find this inner mechanism that you just don't give up. Sometimes probably to your own detriment. And there were probably a few times where you're like, I probably should have stepped off, but you never will. And that's something that you should never change. So I want to finish how we usually finish. And I'm kind of fascinated by the fact that you are at an age now in high school, and we just came off of the Olympics. And most kids at your age are not into track and field, do you feel that because of the success of track, that more kids your age will find track as a sport that they might watch who aren't involved in the sport themselves? Because I just think that we're in this huge boom. Everything's going great. We have social media. All these athletes are putting themselves out there. They are competing against football players and all these random things. So I just want to know, as a high school kid, what do you feel that the future of this sport is? Because who knows, maybe one day you'll be vying for a pro chance to run in the sport, and you're going to want it as big as possible. So how do you feel the sport is going, and do you think that we have some momentum after the Olympics?
Yeah, well, that's the fever dream, to run professionally. But I think it's super, it is interesting to see where it's going to go. I think that track doesn't get as much recognition as it deserves. Like, you have athletes like Brian loves this one, the thrower Brian Krauser.
Brian Krauser.
Yeah. Oh my God, the guy's a freaking superhero.
And like,
greatest of all time.
He's the best.
Like people like that just get so much like they just don't get recognized enough. Or like Anna Hall, like big Anna Hall fan right here. Like
best.
Literally, like if she has like one fan, like it's me. Like
she's got lots of fans. I actually
Jackie Jordan Kersey is diehard Anna fan.
I was telling her this. We were in the gym the other day, and I'm like, "You're a decathlete, right? Maybe that's her best event, right? All 10 of them. I know, whatever. I know, yeah." And
they are starting to have women's decathletes out there now.
Whatever, she could do it. We actually said, like, let's see her throw a javelin. Let's see how far she can yike that thing, right? Like, I mean, unfortunately, we can only put you in 4 events, and we could probably use them up on the track. But there's nothing that she gave it. Anna Hall, it's a good comparison.
Love Anna Hall. But anyways, so she's just like they're all just like amazing athletes, and I think that like all these other sports get recognition. Especially, I think that I think women's sports in general needs more recognition, and I think
I'm
bringing to that. Like I think Caitlin Clark, she's a huge,
I love it, man.
Let's get people watching.
Give me more, Sydney. Give me more. It's wonderful seeing all these women, and like Sha'Carri Richardson. I love her. Like she's outspoken. She's not afraid to speak. But we need more of that. And so I kind of agree with you. I think we're on the up and up, but I still think that like. I just get worried that it's going to be like women's soccer. Every 4 years, it's the greatest thing in the world.
That's our sport, man.
I know, but and then I just.
It's like the people that love it. The people that love it are really going to love it, and they're going to watch it round the clock. And we're always trying to get those fringe spectators and those fringe, people. Maybe, but. I mean,
I hope so. It helps the athletes.
Look, there was a meet on this weekend. Do you think anybody watched it because of
Well, the Diamond League coming up has better races than some of the Olympic finals. It's going to be crazy. But what I'm hoping is, like you see Noah Lyles trash talking Tyreek Hill. Bring it, run. Like, I mean,
totally. That's what's needed.
Well, I think he does it. I think he knows it gets people watching, and he knows that ups his paycheck, and it ups
his paycheck.
But what I think is different. Well, his paycheck only. But what I think is different this time is that we're getting other athletes from other sports to interact and to partake. Like Quincy Wilson, 16-year-old kid, was just hanging out with Jay-Z and running 40s against ex-NFL players. Like, imagine that kid going in the first day of school. What'd you do summer vacation? Won a gold medal.
Even the Snoop Dogg thing, how they brought Snoop Dogg into the lacrosse. Like it had so much controversy, and I'm like, if it gets people watching track and field, what's wrong with that? Because at the end of the day,
Snoop was amazing.
The more people that watch, the more that the athletes benefit, the more that they make what they deserve. Because like I think professional track athletes don't get paid enough. Like I'll always like read things and I'll be like, they're like working a day job. Like this is not like they're the Olympics, and like they have to go like back to work when they go back.
Go back and watch multiple episodes of this show of people who are in their Olympic dreams, and it's
amazing.
Like Alex and I, like I would almost be in like emotionally so upset for these people because this is their dream, and they're not afforded the opportunity. But I do think we are on the up and up. I think all this is good. And I'm calling out you, Michael Johnson. I'm calling out you at MJ Gold. Keep the momentum. You have this league. Kyle Merber, Michael Johnson, bring it home. Get on a good TV network. Bring it home. It is there. And there's no doubt, MJ, my favorite athlete almost of all time. He's going to make it happen. It's going to happen. All you track fans out there, we're going to have to change our whole mind frame. We're going to stop thinking nobody watches this we're going to have to make room for a whole bunch of fans. So giddy up and get ready to go, because I am pumped for this track explosion, and it's going to be epic.
Yeah, I mean,
I hope you're right. We'll start here in Monmouth County in the short conference. We'll start.
I mean, already you see one of the amazing girls in the state will be all American, and APP's posting because someone won a basketball state title, and it's she's the best in the country. What are you?
They'll get that all the time. Yeah.
Yeah, I mean, Josh Heisman.
I mean, Shore Savages will post rankings, and you'll have the state record and the holder in the 2 mile ranked.
Yeah, I mean,
70th out of 70 people.
Yeah.
It's
I do
you sure
think,
you got the right people?
They don't
now,
have
listen, I'm old school. I do think a lot of great high school coverage went by the wayside when they got rid of newspapers, because there was nothing better than every day opening up that local paper and seeing their cover story. They're still kind of out there, but it's hard when you don't have, because there was a paper in every town at their own little local section.
Yeah, but they got that mile split thing.
Co-star.
Lambert's in my pocket.
That's amazing. That's targeted towards runners. It doesn't get people outside. You have to pay to have the subscription. You can't even read it if you're not a part of the sport.
Right.
So it makes
something, or you see that kid plays football
we
too.
We need better coverage from places like NJ.com or APP. That's where the coverage needs to come from, because already NewJersey.com will have these most ridiculous rankings you've ever seen. There'll be preseason track rankings, and you'll be where's the person who won Mox, but some random person's on it, and you're do they know what they're talking about?
I mean, I definitely feel that when the newspaper was there, I was fortunate enough to be in it a few times, and I just have random people come up to me, hey, I saw you in the paper. You don't get that now. I mean, maybe we are, or you guys are, because of the co-star, but that's super local. But I mean, you used to get just people knowing more about the sport because they would see it, they would go past the newspaper. Now you have to be looking at certain specific people on social media to get your information. So
yeah, I mean, I will say we're lucky because we have the co-star.
Shout out to Len Bardsley, our hype man.
He does a great job.
He's the best.
I really feel he encapsulates the sport and what we want to bring to it. I think he's great. He captures all sports. He doesn't neglect any sports. He'll write about bowling. He'll write about I think he really does a good job in the community, making sure that all the sports get the attention that they deserve.
He really does. He pours more. He gives us more coverage. It's a local newspaper. It covers the towns that surround our high school.
Shout out,
Coach. The co-star, the legendary co-star, in Southern Monmouth County, New Jersey, and he really does, and he respects it. His son actually ran at Manasquan High School. He was a runner, and he so he understands that, and he also knew his daughter ran. I think when there was Manasquan had a cross country team that didn't have enough girls to score. And from there to now, where we kind of have a few kids, sending kids off to colleges now, and being running some fast times. And like I said, we had Kat Keefe, who just graduated with us. She was a 16 kid,
58 low.
Yeah, 58 low. She's at Fordham University now.
Calm 5'10".
Yeah. She ran the easiest, right? High at the easiest 5'10" we ever seen as a track athlete. Wait till they get her to run a mile in college. She's gonna be all right. When I got to Manasquan, they asked me to work with the sprinters. I think specifically for Kat, because they didn't have really anybody that was coaching her, and she was running the 55 or the 60, whatever, 55 indoor. And I looked at her and I said, she's a quarter mile. She's probably a half, or she's definitely a quarter mile. She's probably a half miler. And then by the end of that season, I was like, she's a miler. And she didn't want that too much. She fought me on it. But coming from a 55, who can blame her? The mile's awfully long. It's a lot to wrap.
We built a program from the ground up.
It's a lot to wrap your head around.
It's kind of amazing. I'll have people from local towns. Manasquan's kind of the kind of town where everyone talks to everyone. So it's great seeing people watch track in the town.
Yeah, being around you, Angelina, for this past season, it's just been wonderful to watch how you work. And I want to thank Brian, Coach Reed, Michaela Reed, Coach Evan, Kaiser, Coach Megan Cavanaugh. I mean, you guys do such an amazing job at that school, and the program that you guys are building is great. And I'm so looking forward to seeing Angelina and Brian. I'm wishing you absolute best success this fall at Manalapan. It's going to be great. And I just
it's
hope
going
that
to be great.
Yep. I just hope that we have, that everyone has a great year, and we're going to see some wonderful times. So thank you guys. Thank you all for listening. And we will have a wonderful show next week.